Welcome back and thanks for joining me once again. My name is Matt. I'm here on the Bonnie Lee, joined with my first mate, my wife Chelsea, and we're here at Peanut Island in Riviera Beach, Florida. I'm going to be continuing to go through the requirements for an uninspected passenger vessel, specifically the chapter for life-saving equipment. So we got a lot to cover and a couple examples to show you, like this one, or this one as well. We'll talk about this one as well, and even this one too. So we're going to talk about all the differences and which ones you should have on your UPV. So stick around, we got a lot to cover. Let's get after it. So what are the main differences in all those life jackets that I showed you on the intro? Well, there's quite a bit really, and it's going to be a lot of information to digest, so I will try to break it down as best I can. So we're going to start from the very basic life jackets, work our way up through the more advanced life jackets, and what distinguishes them differently from a recreationally purposed life jacket to a commercially purposed life jacket or used on a UPV. And if we look at those rules for an uninspected passenger vessel, one of the things it says in 46 CFR 2525 is that all UPVs must have a Type 1 PFD on board for each person of a suitable size. So adults have the adult size, the children have the children's size. So this is the first vest we're going to talk about. You see these all over the place at Walmart, Bass Pro Shops, just about any place that sells boating goods or tackle. You're going to see this vest right here, and this is a Type 2. I'm going to read the instructions on the back here, and there's a couple things that you need to highlight on this one, because I see a lot of these being used, and these aren't really going to be what we want to have for an uninspected passenger vessel. But the tag on here is a little bit deceiving, and it says it is U.S. Coast Guard approved. It's a wearable device for uninspected commercial vessels less than 40 feet, but not carrying passengers for hire. And this is not approved to be used on PWCs, personal watercraft, jet ski, sea-doos, those kind of things. So this is going to be your requirement if you're a uninspected passenger vessel, not for hire. So if you're just out running the boat, maybe you're getting bait or something like that, you could probably use this, but we're going to be really careful because the rules state under life-saving equipment that all UPVs, that's all UPVs, must have a Type 1 PFD on the boat. Now the other type of vest that we're going to see here is this one. We just saw a Type 2. This is a ski style vest. This has got the foam core in the inside. It goes around you like a jacket, buckles up in the front. And this one here is a Type 3. Now you can use this one for your PWCs or your recreational boats, things like that, but this is also not going to be suitable as that Type 1 required on all UPVs. Now I have this one here. This is also a ski vest. It's got the zipper in the front with the buckles, a neoprene material with the flotation on the inside. Now this is a little bit better quality than the last one we looked at. It dries faster, it's a lot more comfortable to wear and hugs you a little bit tighter, and with the neoprene on the outside it's really soft. This is also a Type 3 vest though, so this is not going to work for any sort of commercial application, but you're more than welcome to use these on your recreational boats or your PWCs. One thing that I like about having this vest is on my boat, even though I'm a UPV or going to be a UPV, I'm going to have all the Type 1s on board for everybody that's here, but this is my personal vest because if I want to go jump in the water or heaven forbid have to do a water rescue or something along those lines, I want to use this vest. I don't want to be wearing the Type 1s. Now we're going to talk about this guy a little bit more in depth. This is a Type 1 offshore vest. The whole point of Type 1 offshore vests is that when the user is wearing it and this is over their head, if they go in the water face first, because of the buoyancy and the way it's placed on the body, it's going to roll the person, if they're unconscious, over so that their head is out of the water and they're not laying face down. The other types of life vests, the Types 2, the Type 3, the Type 5s, none of those are designed to roll the victim or the man overboard back face up. And that is why the Coast Guard has stipulated that all UPVs must have the Type 1 vest, so that in the event somebody goes in the water and they get knocked unconscious or they're otherwise incapacitated to be able to maneuver on their own, this is going to keep their head facing up. Now, one of the things you'll notice on here is there is soulless reflective tape on this vest, and that soulless tape is required by the Coast Guard, and we're going to take a look at that article in the book. And it does say that if you're wearing a Type 1 vest, you have to have, and this is 46 CFR 2525.15, and I have gone around the world trying to get clarification on this specific CFR. The CFR states, each required life preserver intended to be worn must be an approved Type 1 retroreflective material, must have Type 1 retroreflective material, often a flexible tape, with at least 200 square centimeters on the front, on the back, and if it's a reversible style Type 1, it has to be 200 square centimeters of soulless reflective tape on the front and back of the reversible sides as well. Mustang makes a very good quality product. From the material that they use on the outside to the flotation on the inside, the way that they do that their soulless grade reflective tape, it's just clean, crisp, and nice. And this is more on the high side as far as price. I would call this a premium product. And this is truly a Type 1 offshore vest, and it's even got the little piece that goes underneath your chin to keep your chin up, your airways open while you're floating face up in the water. But the main issue with this vest right here is the soulless tape that they put on here. Now, I had originally bought this Mustang vest to use on this boat for my Type 1 requirements. But what I noticed when I started looking at the CFRs, where it states you have to have 200 square centimeters of soulless grade reflective tape front and back, the first thing I noticed, of course, is there is no soulless grade reflective material on the back side of this vest. Now, I had already reached out to Mustang and actually got to talk to the president. His name is Jason. We had a really nice phone conversation, and what came up was the fact that these vests are missing 200 square centimeters of soulless reflective tape on the back side. He didn't really have any comments for me or anything that I can share with you on the matter. But I did also talk with the local Coast Guard examiner about this exact situation. He says, yes, it is a Type 1 vest and it meets all the construction and buoyancy standards, but I still have to modify this vest and add 200 more square centimeters of soulless grade reflective tape to the back side. Now, I had reached out to a bunch of other captains to seek some clarification because all the markings on this vest state that this is intended for commercial use. And when I was talking to the other captains, their logic was a little bit different. They said, no, you can run that just the way it is because this is the outside surface of the vest. If I have this on my head and I'm in the water laying back, all the reflective material is going to be exposed. But they forgot one very critical component to that, is what happens if somebody tries to don the life jacket backwards in a panic or emergency situation. Now they're in the water this way. Also, we know that as we've gone through schooling to become boat captains, that in the event that there is a man overboard situation, we obviously want to toss a life ring to them, but we also want to toss over any extra life jackets that we may have for a couple reasons. One, we might be able to save somebody with floating debris, but two, it's actually putting out more or less like a grid or breadcrumb, sort of say, to see where an accident took place or where the man overboard situation happened. If you start throwing floating debris in the water, you're going to have a better chance of finding whoever's missing among that debris. And if you just throw this in the water willy-nilly and it lands like this, what happens when that Coast Guard search and rescue helicopter comes by and it's at night and they're shining their spotlight, they're not going to have any sort of reflection coming off the water on this. And I'm sure I'm going to catch a little bit of flack from anybody that's watching that is already a captain, it's been doing it a lot longer than I have, that this will be just fine on your boat. But I'm telling you, when I talked to the Coast Guard examiner, he says no, it does have to be modified. And I actually do have a roll of Solus grade tape right here. Now this stuff runs on the low side about $3 a foot, on the high side about $15 a foot for Solus grade reflective tape, and it does say Solus all out throughout this honeycomb pattern reflective material. I didn't want to add that to this vest. I'm down here in South Florida. This stuff is sticky. This is a very expensive Type 1 vest that Mustang puts out. It's a very good quality built vest. It's pretty thick though for a small center console. But putting sticky tape on the back of this, if anybody's ever messed with stickers ever in their life, they know the edges are gonna peel, it's gonna leave a sticky residue. That sticky residue can start to run, and it's just gonna make this otherwise very nice vest just look horrible. Quick timeout, I wanted to make this point very clear. So the CFRs, those are codes of federal regulation, and 46 CFR 25.25-15 clearly states that you have to have 200 square centimeters of Solus reflective tape on the front and back side of the PFDs. And as we saw with that Mustang vest, there is no reflective material on the back side, and I did have captains saying that that was perfectly acceptable to use on the boat as is. Now I want to challenge that with this very important point. What were to happen if you were to end up in court because you had a maritime incident at sea and somebody perished or was severely hurt, and you're standing in front of a judge and jury and a prosecutor, and they point out, hey, by the way, you did not follow this CFR to the letter, and therefore you're going to assume a certain level of responsibility. Now, does that Solus tape necessarily prevent a death at sea or prevent somebody from being found in a search and rescue mission? I'm not going to weigh in on that debate. All I know is the CFRs state we have to have it, and if I end up in court, that's the reference that they're going to use is, did I or did I not follow that CFR? So keep that in the back of your mind when you're trying to navigate all the different CFRs, and whether or not you're going to follow them to the letter is, are you willing to take the chance of not following the CFR if you were to end up on the wrong side of the courtroom table? So keep that in mind. Now, there's two reasons why I am personally not going with this vest. The very first reason is this is a very, very thick vest. It's big, it's bulky, and it takes up a lot of space. And on a center console boat, there's just not enough storage to have 8 of these on board. Really, the biggest thing that I didn't like about these vests was that I was going to have to add this tape to the back side. I'd have to reapply this multiple times throughout the life of this life jacket, and I really didn't want to buy a premium level product and then have to turn around and modify it, and then the space constraints just kind of nailed that final nail into the coffin for the Mustang survivals. If you have a much larger vessel and you have the capability to store these and you don't mind adding more Solus tape to the backside, this is a very good quality product. I like Mustang products. I've always liked Mustang products. Unfortunately, I am not going to be using this Mustang product on my vessel. Instead, what I went with is this. This is an Imperial Brand Pfd. This is a Type 1 as well. And as you can see, compared to the Mustang, it is sizably smaller on every dimension, width, thickness, and height. It's actually about 40% smaller, so I can hold more of these in less space than the Mustang vest. Now, the one thing I don't like about the Imperial brand is the Solus reflective sticker. So as we can see, this is it's like a decal. It's not really a sticker. They do have it sewn on here, but it doesn't look clean. It doesn't look crisp like Mustang does with their vests. That aside, you know, they do take up less space. They're ready to go right out of the bag. As we can see, we've got Solus tape absolutely everywhere, top, bottom, front, back, and this is compliant right out of the box. One of the other things that you have to know when you are equipping your life preservers is most of the time they do not come with the safety whistle, which is required, or the automatically activated safety strobe light. So both of these I had to add. Mustang does include the whistle with their vest, but no light. I don't think there's anybody that makes a light with their vest. I went with these ACR brand safety lights because I do have the ACR EPIRB and personal locating beacon, my personal one. It goes into my Mustang inflatable vest. So when you're outfitting your boat, make sure that you're adding both the safety whistle and, if required, your manual and automatic safety light. And one of the other things we will look at is this Mustang vest. I do believe I've touched on it in the past. This is a inflatable series, and there is a special notation. Thanks assistant. There is a special notation about inflatable vests in these CFRs, and it talks about hybrid inflatables. Now this is not a hybrid inflatable. This is just a strictly inflatable vest, and this does not count as a life jacket on board a UPV or even a recreationally registered vessel. You still have to have either a Type 1 if you're a commercial vessel, or the Type 2, Type 3s on board if you're going to be using this. Well, let me take that back. If you're a recreational vessel and this is the only vest you have, it must be worn at all times and cannot be taken off. The problem with that is like on my boat, I have a head that I can go down inside. This would not be allowed to be worn down below, because if it inflates while I'm down inside and the boat rolls over, I'm going to be pinned to the surface. But I will be wearing this vest when I'm out and about on the boat. I'll also have my Type 1s. The hybrid inflatables are going to be a combination of inflatable vests like this and foam like the rest of them. Now, when I talked to that Coast Guard examiner, he was under the impression that those hybrid commercial vests are no longer allowed to count as a vest. They can still be worn, but you still have to have that Type 1 on board. And that same goes with all the other life vests that I've shown you earlier, is as long as the correct Type 1 life vest is on board for each person, then you can bring additional life vests that are a little bit more comfortable, more suited to swim in, ski, tube behind the boat, but you still got to have those Type 1s. And we do have a part 2 to this particular part of the CFRs coming up, because life jackets is one side of things. Having the safety flares is one of the other parts of that. So we'll touch on that in a future episode. In the meantime, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. If you have any questions or comments, please drop those down below. And if there's any suggestions on how I can improve the content that I'm bringing you, I would absolutely love to hear them. And of course, to help my channel grow to reach a wider audience, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, so I can keep bringing you amazing content. Well, we got more to come. Let's get after it.